So if you want to see how I made this chicken with BarbeRue sauce, keep on watching. To start off, we have to make the BarbeRue sauce. So in my little mini food processor here, I'm going to add half a cup of apple cider vinegar, half a cup of honey, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar or white sugar, 1/4 cup of pineapple juice, 1/4 cup Dijon mustard, 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, 2 tablespoons of fresh cracked black pepper, 4 tablespoons onion powder, 4 teaspoons garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. If you want it hot, you could put some more in. If you don't want it as hot, I guess you could put a little less of that in. Now we just pop the lid on and we blend until everything's nice and smooth. Okay, once you've got it all blended up and it's nice and smooth, we're going to transfer it into this little pot here. We're going to get it on the stove and we're just going to get it on a medium heat. And we're going to reduce it for about 10 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll have a look. So I kind of forgot on purpose that we have to add this can of whole peeled tomatoes in here. But it wouldn't have all fitted in my mini food processor anyway, so we'll just bung that can in and then we'll blitz this up till it's nice and smooth and then we'll just add it straight into the pot. So now I've got all my tomatoes there blitzed up. I'm actually going to pour it in this pan here. So after looking at my little saucepan there that I first tipped it in, it wasn't going to be big enough. And I think this pan will do a much better job. So now I've got my tomatoes all blitzed up and added in there. We'll just give it a quick stir, get everything combined, and then we'll get this on the stove and get it reducing for about 10 minutes or so on a medium heat. So it's been bubbling away on the stove there for about 10 minutes or so, and we're at this consistency right here. At this stage, we've got to add another 1/4 cup of honey. So we'll get that poured in there. I'm not sure why we don't just add all that at the start, but anyway, we are following our recipe. So we'll get that stirred in, and we'll get it back on the heat until we add, for another few more minutes, until we add some more vinegar, which, again, I'm not sure why we do it then, but that's what the recipe says. So that's what we're going to do. It's been about 5 minutes or so since we added the rest of the honey. Now I'm going to add the rest of the vinegar, which, again, I'm not really sure why you have to add it in stages, but it's what the recipe says. So now we're going to stir this in. We're going to cook it for a few more minutes until we reach our desired thickness and consistency. So I'm thinking it's done. It's deepening in color, it's thickened up, and I know this will thicken up even more once it cools down. I'm going to be happy with that. So I'm going to get this transferred over to another bowl, just so it cools down a little bit quicker, and then we'll get on to prepping the chicken. Okay, so I've got all my chicken laid out, my chicken Marylands, and we're going to season them all with salt. So we'll just go ahead and give them a good sprinkling. I'm going to get both sides of the chicken, so sprinkle one side, give them all a flip, and season the other side. Once you've got them all seasoned up, I'm going to get these plopped into a bowl. We'll just put a couple in at a time, and then we'll get some sauce on, coat them, and then we'll get a few more in just so they all get nicely coated. Got my sauce to the side here, and we're just going to put a couple of spoons in, and then we'll go on with the hand and get them all turned around, mixed in. Make sure you don't, contaminate your big bowl of sauce with the raw chicken here, because you're going to want to bottle this up and keep a bit. Once you've got everything thoroughly sauced, a couple more in, that's for good measure. Now we'll set this aside for about 10-15 minutes while we get the oven preheated. So I got my chicken out of the bowl onto a parchment lined pan. The oven's already preheated to 170 degrees with the fan on. So we're going to bung it in there for about 30 minutes or until the internal temperature of the chicken reaches 72 degrees. To go along with this chicken, she made a apple and cucumber slaw. But she kind of pickled the cucumbers and all this sort of jizz jazz, but we're all here for the chicken. So I'm going to have a little play on her slaw here, which I'm using pretty much the same herbs and spices, which is some mustard seeds, coriander seeds, and some pepper, a little bit of salt, and all the vinegars and that. But I'm just going to have Golden Delicious apples because, they're my favorite apple. We're going to drop some on the floor because that's what we do here. And then we're just going to add white wine vinegar and rice vinegar. So I'm just going to toss all that together, and then we're going to set this aside for about 5 or 10 minutes while we finish up everything else. And then that should be a nice little vibrant slaw to the side to go along with this chicken. And after tasting our little play on it, we're going to add a little bit of sugar, just because, it's going to make it better. So that's just about a 1/2 teaspoon of brown sugar I put in there as well. We'll get that mixed up. As always, we'll give it another little taste before we set it aside, but pretty sure that's going to be it. Time to finish off the chicken. So I've preheated my barbecue and I've let the chicken sit here for about 5 minutes. So I'm just going to take it outside. I'm just going to flash it on the barbecue for a little bit to get more color on the underside, and maybe we'll give the skin a little bit of attention too. So I got a little fork here Let's taste this salad. I'm more interested in the chicken though. And for that, we don't need no utensils. Usually when I make chicken, I don't put a sauce on before I cook it. Usually I make the chicken with just a little bit of salt, maybe a couple of herbs in here and there, and then I bake it and then I make a sauce that goes on after. But after tasting this, I might be changing the way I cook chicken from here on out. Because that's pretty damn delicious.